Now we've got communications director for the Obama White House, the co-host of Pod Save America, Dan Pfeiffer. Dan, thanks for coming back on.
Good to be here, Brian.
So I don't want to fall victim here to recency bias, but to what extent do you think Donald Trump's rally featuring outright racism against Latinos, against black people, is going to hurt him in these final days?
Well, it's always hard because we have these moments that are tremendously outrageous. They would end the careers of every previous politician, and then they sort of become a ripple in the pool at most. But there are a couple of things here where I think this one might be a little bit different. One is this rally happened 9 days before the election. Every single one of those days, you were trying to have the best day you possibly can. This was his closing argument speech. This is the moment where he is supposed to lay out on his terms his best argument to voters, and they completely shat the bed, right? All the coverage is not. He had a proposal about a policy proposal about home health care and all these other things. All that fell by the wayside. It was all about just what a clown show it was and about a bunch of racist jokes from a comedian. And so it is at best for Trump, it is a massive opportunity cost. And at worst, you have someone at this Trump rally making a tremendously offensive joke about Puerto Ricans when there are 300,000 Puerto Ricans who live in the critical state of Pennsylvania. The number of Puerto Ricans is like 3 times the margin that Biden won Pennsylvania by in 2020.
You know, there's a part of me that understands, to your exact point, that nothing really moves people, that we're in a moment of super high polarization and inelasticity. But then there's another part of me that understands that we are in a moment right now where the whole country is watching. And you and I both know that it's difficult to get to that point in politics. And on top of that, the rally was in Madison Square Garden. It was a place that was scientifically engineered to have eyeballs on it. Do you think that this is going to break through in a way that it wouldn't otherwise break through?
I think it would break through more than if this happened in a random rally 10 days ago in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Right. Trump picked Madison Square Garden because it is the Mecca, right? It is the Mecca of sports entertainment. It is where you go to have a big event. He did it to get attention. They built out this giant program with Elon Musk, the Trump family, these comedians, Dr. Phil, Hulk Hogan, everyone to get attention. Then they squandered the attention. So it will break through more than something else will. Now, I think the important cautionary note here for Democrats is just Republican. If we've learned anything over the last 8 years, Republicans exposing their racism is not sufficient to win elections. We have to talk about how this matters to people. And I thought the Harris campaign did a good job of this yesterday when they laid out the differences. Not just that Trump is racist towards Trump's allies are racist towards Puerto Ricans or offensive towards Puerto Ricans, is that there's they use it as an opportunity to lay out the differences on policy towards Puerto Rico between the two candidates. I think that's the right way to approach it.
And that raises this next question here, which is that there has been messaging that's worked well for Democrats thus far. Reproductive rights and abortion, there's the economy, and Kamala has actually closed the gap on Trump, which for a Democrat to close the gap on a Republican on the economy is already an accomplishment unto itself. There are threats to democracy, but now the issue of fascism has surged into the spotlight, and that's been aided on by John Kelly, of course, and by Trump just outright kind of admitting the fascist behavior that he would engage in if he wins. But do you have any worry that as a closing message, the idea of fascism is actually off message for us?
I mean, this is complicated because if the former chief of staff, a retired 4-star general who agrees with Trump on policy, comes out and says he cannot support Trump because he's a fascist.
Right. What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to ignore it?
Right. You can't, as my co-host John Pfeiffer said the other day, you can't come out with respond with your housing plan to that. Like that is a story.
Yeah.
Now, the thing here that we have to remember is a few things. One, I think if you ask people if fascism is good or bad, most people would say bad. Most people can't define fascism. It's not. And we run with this challenge with all of the stuff that we know to be true about the kind of President Trump will be in a second term, a dictator, an authoritarian, a vengeance tour, all of that. But for the vast majority of Americans, they look back and say, yeah, there were some things I did not like about the Trump presidency. I kind of maybe didn't like the way he acted. He didn't do some things incredibly well, but he wasn't a dictator, right? He didn't seize power. It was obviously there was tremendous. That is a real whitewashing what happened on January 6th, but that's just sort of how people say it. It's like that's not really what happened. And so to make this matter, you have to do the following things. One, not focus on the word fascism. Like that is a bit of a rabbit hole we don't need to go down. Yeah. Two, you have to use it as a way to show that Trump wants unchecked power. And with unchecked power becomes an extreme agenda, which will have the following effects on your lives, right? your freedoms, your prosperity. He's going to help himself and rich people like himself. This is why I think the smart way that Kamala Harris handled this was the enemies list versus to-do list paradigm, because that allows you to wrap in this fascism, unchecked power, dictator thing with in a way that you can get it actually a meta argument about who Trump's for and who she's for and how it matters to people.
Another person that was on stage at that rally was Elon Musk, and he's been more and more visible in this campaign, obviously going so far as to give $1 million to a person each day as something of like a gift here to people who register to vote and sign his petition. He's been since sued by the Philadelphia DA, so we'll see how that pans out. But is there any worry for you as far as Elon is concerned? And as it relates to young men in this country, the kind of permission structure that somebody like Elon might give for people to sign on to Trump's campaign?
100%. Like in our world of progressive political junkies, Elon is a joke, a clown, dangerous, propagandist, a crook, all of those things. But he has a giant fan base among a certain set of young men who are particularly online young men. And these are the exact voters that Trump is courting, right? It's why he spent 3 hours of the second to last Friday of the campaign on Joe Rogan's podcast, right? I mean, he has sway with some group of people. And so is he going to win the election for Trump or not? Like who the hell knows? But I think we sometimes in our bubble that we all know we live in, we are somewhat dismissive of how other voters, and particularly this certain segment of voters, feel about Elon Musk and therefore Donald Trump.
I'm curious about the Joe Rogan thing. Like, when you look at clips from the Joe Rogan thing, there was never any moment where Trump actually performed well. Like, there wasn't any like viral clip that seems to help him on the surface. I think a lot of us get worried by virtue of the fact that he went on there, and so by by virtue of his sheer presence with Joe Rogan, that's cause for concern. But does he? Is that enough, I guess, is the question here. Like, is him showing up to Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan obviously, it says something that he invited him on, and I think that he probably has more of a predisposition toward Trump anyway. But does the fact that he goes on and doesn't really deliver, I mean, a lot of his responses were so rambling, were so like untethered to reality that even Rogan himself said like, hey man, your weave is getting wide, which is Trump's euphemism for the fact that he can't string together enough word, like a coherent thought when he speaks. But so is it enough for him to just be there, or is the fact that he is going to these places but then devolving into exactly what he is, which is like this basin of incoherence, does that actually undermine the fact that he showed up?
I don't know that it undermines the fact he showed up. Like, he obviously did not maximize his opportunity here. This was a massive audience, right? I think we're well north of 30 million YouTube views alone, right? It's obviously getting fed to people's phones via Spotify and all the other podcast platforms. So more people will see this interview than any other single thing Donald Trump or Kamala Harris will do on this campaign. I think hands down. Was he his best in it? No. If you went into it as a completely open-minded, undecided voter, and you watch the whole thing or watch large portions of it, would you come away feeling more confident that Trump would be a good president? Probably not. But the people that here's where and then what happens, especially with Joe Rogan, but with all these podcast interviews, is it then gets diced up by an entire industry of people who clip it and then they share it. And so, like, my wife and I live in very different TikTok algorithms. Her algorithm is all pro Kamala Harris. It's all all the coconut memes, all the eating the dogs remixes, and all of that stuff. Yeah. And so she's getting all of the bad Trump on Rogan clips. Because I am a white man in my mid to late 40s here, I like sports, I get the opposite. Right. So I have seen Trump talk.
This is like the Theo Vaughn universe.
I get so much
Shane
Theo.
Gillis.
I get all of that stuff all the time, and I get a lot of Rogan. And what I'm seeing from that interview is two clips I've seen a gazillion times last year. One is various versions of Trump talking in a relatively quasi-normal human way about MMA fighting, where he kind of like knows who the fighters are, and it's not going to make people vote for Trump. I don't know, but he seems like a human who follow sports, which you don't see those off of Trump. And the other one is Joe Rogan in his post-Trump podcast talking about how Trump went for 3 hours without peeing. Once again, is bladder integrity something voters care about? I don't know.
Yeah.
But like the people does it move undecided voters? Absolutely not. Does it possibly remind some of these low propensity young men who like Trump but don't generally vote to maybe vote for him? Maybe. We don't know. We just don't know.
Do you think that Kamala should do Joe Rogan?
Like, if you had asked me this 3 weeks ago, I would say yes. But now is she going to fly to Texas? Is she going to lose a half a day to go be on Rogan with a week to go in the election? That's a tough call. And probably,
if it was an opportunity cost regarding time, do you think that she would be well served just by virtue of doing the show and by going face to face with him?
Yes, and I think she would do a good job. He's not a contentious interviewer, right? This is not like going to do an interview with like Ben Shapiro, whose goal is to dunk on you and go viral in some way, or like Megyn Kelly or something like that. He's going to have a conversation with you. He's going to disagree with you in some ways, but she would have had a lot of room to make a case for herself. And she would obviously use that opportunity better than Trump, or at least more efficiently than Trump did, because she's just simply a better communicator. So like 3 weeks ago, if she could have done it, absolutely. I don't know that I would upend the campaign and fly to Austin and now you got to go 3 hours. You can't leave. Now that Trump's done 3 hours, you can't have an aide pointing at their watch at the 90-minute mark to get them out of there. You gotta do the whole thing. And so probably not worth it at this point.
Dan, we're a week out here. There's plenty of panic to go around among Democrats because that's what we do. That's our birthright as Democrats. And this is since we've lost our polling edge, which from when Kamala peaked, I believe around 4 or 6 weeks ago. Yeah. What's your message to people who are worried that by virtue of the momentum going in one way as far as the polls are concerned, that we're headed for defeat?
No one knows anything. They truly do not know anything. A normal polling error, not like some systemic undercounting or overcounting of certain voters, just a normal polling error that happens because polling is imprecise, can mean the election can go either way, right? It's incredibly close. No one knows anything. The polls are always wrong in some way, shape, or form. And so it is, this race is what I like to call the margin of effort, right? Where we actually can determine what happens here. 11,000 votes in Arizona and Georgia were the margin in 2020. 0.5% in Wisconsin. Michigan was like 2.5%. And that was like a landslide compared to the rest of these, right? Every single one of the battleground states last time were in the margin of error. Most of them were under 1 point. We're in the same place this time by everything we can tell. And so it's all up to us and what we're going to do, which is why at Vote Save America, we have launched the Last Call campaign, where we're asking people to find 3 people in battleground states and call them and get them to vote. And if you go to votesaveamerica.com/vote, you will get talking points and all the information you need to do it. While you're there, you can also build your own ballot, right? So you can know everything that's on your ballot, from your initiatives to your local candidates, to understand, so you're prepared to go into the ballot box. But my message to people is this is a very, very winnable race. Whether we win it or not, it's up to us, because we know there's an anti-MAGA majority in this country and in those battleground states. We just have to turn them out to win. And it's pretty much that simple.
Yeah, I would echo that. First of all, I use Vote Save America every year to actually build my ballot. It's the best way to find out what the candidates' positions are. So again, if you're watching this right now and you haven't yet filled out your ballot, I know there's a lot of people whose ballot is sitting right by the front door of your house. If you live in a state like mine, like California, where everybody's mailed a ballot, make sure to head over to votesaveamerica.com. Also, again, in the same way that the polls are tied right now, everything is within the margin of error. It can go either way. It is ours to win in the same way that it's ours to lose. So to Dan's exact point, please make sure that you are getting everything filled out, that you're going all the way down ballot, because these state legislatures are important as well. And also to use this moment to get your ballot in early if you have the opportunity, so that the campaigns can focus on true undecided voters. If you're watching this right now, it's likely that you're a highly engaged voter. The campaigns know whether or not you voted. They don't know who you voted for, but they know if you've cast your ballot. And so do those campaigns a favor, get your ballot in so they can focus on people who are actually deciding between whether to show up or whether to just sit on the couch and not show up at all in this election. Dan, I want to finish off with this. What is it like for you? I mean, you worked in the Obama White House. Tommy, your co-host over at Pod Save America, Tommy Vitor, was the National Security Council spokesman over at the White House as well for Barack Obama. what is it like for you to witness his trajectory from the top of the NSC to now seeing him compete in fish challenges with me for the show that you guys host, that Pod Save America hosts over on its YouTube channel called Liberal Tears. I believe the last challenge was me basically hazing Tommy into eating Swedish fermented fish in called surströmming.
Here's what I'd say about Tommy. I've known Tommy since his 20s, and he has always aspired to be the best at whatever it is he does. When he was a campaign spokesman, he worked his tail to be the best campaign spokesman. When he went into government and became a spokesman on national security matters, he did the best job. And now that he's in the content creator business, he will lay it on the line to get those subscriptions, those views, those clicks, and he is crushing it once again. So look, what I like someone who is willing to put in the blood, sweat, and tears to excel in their chosen field, and this is now his chosen field. So kudos to Tommy.
Well, that's a very diplomatic answer. I think I think he'll be very touched with that answer.
Yes.
He'll probably like that answer a hell of a lot better than an answer I would have given.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm the one hazing him on a biweekly basis here.
Yes.
Dan, thank you for the work that you're doing, and everybody who is watching right now. Head over to votesaveamerica.com. Make sure you build your ballot that way. Make sure you use all of the resources that Vote Save America offers, and subscribe to Pod Save America's YouTube channel. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. Dan, appreciate your time, man.
Awesome, man. Great to talk to you as always. Good luck.